Ho ho ho, a surprise. A surprise to all. Let me get the link for it out to everything that I need to send it to. But yes, this is something new indeed, something I have not done before, and I am very excited to be doing this. Very rarely do I ever consider doing something, and then do I actually follow through and do it. Just I can do it like how I wanted to. Yeah, there we go. Oh, whoopsie. This has to go. Very funny thing just happened. We won't worry about it. That's actually super hilarious. I love the thumbnail not doing what I wanted to do on places, but it's fine. Do, 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 do. I got like 2 more places I'm gonna drop this. I'm gonna be like twice tonight, which will be fun. Very fun. So what is this? Welcome. This is gonna be a bi-weekly anime and manga podcast where I'm gonna run through news for the 2 weeks that I'm looking at. It's always gonna be the 2 weeks prior to where I am when I do the stream, and our cutoff date's gonna be that Tuesday night. So this is from November 6th all the way to the 19th, the 2 weeks being the 6th to the 12th, the 13th to the 19th. I know it is an odd encompassing of the week, so the week is gonna start on the week is gonna start on the Wednesday, is how I'm gonna look at it, and then it's gonna be that Wednesday to the Tuesday, and so any news that drops on a Wednesday, I'm never gonna cover. So I have the breakdown on what we're gonna go through today. But some important things I want to run through. One, I don't speak Japanese, so I'm gonna mess up pronunciation of names real bad, and I'm gonna apologize for that. I do my best to do a read through when I copy things down, and largely it hopefully won't be too bad. You know, you do enough content about anime and manga, and you hope that you're pretty good at this by this point. In addition, after we get through the news blocks, the news is going to be structured in a way where it's going to be kind of the core stories from Mao, my anime list, because those tend to be notes about stuff getting animated. It tends to be or largely bigger news stories. There's a couple that Mao doesn't get, and those we'll be getting from Anime News Network, and I'll include them. So I'll run through it's not going to be really structured as the biggest news stories first. It'll go in chronological order to the best of my ability, starting from the 6th going all the way down. We'll do a block of the 6th to the 12th first. At the end of each block of news I'll do a run through of all the news stories that I think are at least mostly important enough to touch on from my anime news network, because they put out a lot of news for each day of the week, so it's a lot. So just gonna do like a blitz through of like a news roundup for that. And that's kind of gonna be what we're looking at in that regard. Then we'll move into next week, and we'll do the exact same pattern. There's a couple of big topics that are different from my big topics, but there'll be a couple of things that are obviously highlighted this week in particular. I'm super excited to talk about how bad the potential Sony acquisition of Kadokawa is. And I cannot stress enough that is a conversation I'm excited for. And then I'm going to go and jump into what I'm watching, which will be a very quick segment about anime I am watching. Not this week, but potentially other weeks. I'll give you a double dip crossover on maybe some very brief thoughts on how I feel about our shows for our other podcast, Save or Slay, which we'll talk about when we get there. And then we dive into what I'm reading, and that'll be a semi-long segment where I'll go through my stuff on Shonen Jump, and I'll go through my stuff on Manga Plus, and I'll give some general thoughts. And then we end the podcast with the big things that I've decided this week I want to break down and talk more in detail about. And this is gonna be this is in the right order. Good. I'm gonna talk about Bleach because I read through all of Bleach in essentially I finished reading Bleach in the time period that this podcast would cover. I started reading through, and I'm not fully caught up on Elusive Samurai, so I'm gonna give my general takes and opinions on both of those as a series so far. Bleach and where I am at with it, and Elusive Samurai with sorry, Bleach with all of it because I read through all of it, and Elusive Samurai on where I am at with it because I'm not caught up yet. And then we're gonna close the podcast talking about Oshi no Ko. I'm very excited for that, and there's a reason that that's here. Besides the fact that it ended and I read it. But I'm really excited for that. But let's last note I'm gonna say, there's gonna be no music in the background of this podcast, so it's just gonna be me talking. And the reason for that is predominantly copyright problems. My recommendation is just throw on like an anime opening ED playlist and just have that playing in the background. I do. You can't hear it. It's muted. Please God, let me not have fucked that up, but it's muted, so you can go listen to that. And have it in the background and a good time while we just talk about anime stuff for a while. I know this is a very simplistic layout. Maybe it'll adjust over time. I like it. I know bi-weekly anime and manga podcast is a terrible name for a podcast. Maybe we'll adjust it over time. Maybe we won't. But so let's start diving into the news for the week of the 6th to the 12th. First up, web manga Mr. Yano's Ordinary Days is getting a TV anime adaptation. So this was announced by the production company Hapanet. The source material appears to be ongoing. We don't have a lot of information about it. But so that's your first one to take a look at. In addition, we're just going to run through these. A lot of these are going to wind up being adaptation news right away. Rock is a Lady's Modesty. Got a staff, cast, and promo with a spring 2025 premiere, meaning April. So this is being done by Bandai Namco Studios. This is the one time I didn't write down what Bandai Namco Pictures has done. That you can trust them. They do good work. They'll come up later, I think, on something. It's sound director, and this is the reason I'm really interested in this, because this is clearly a manga about music. Its sound director is Hiromi Kikuta, who did Given, Haikyuu, Run with the Wind, and Maki. So that is gonna be that is a show I'm going to keep my eye out for when we get to our Saber Slay season in April, because that sounds like it's going to be a great time. So that was Rock is a Lady's Modesty. Source material also appears to be ongoing. Some of those I might get wrong, because it can be a little hard sometimes to figure out if something is actively going or not, if it's not correctly marked as completed. But I feel pretty confident about those. Next up, Kazuo Umezu, who is a legendary manga creator and considered a pioneer in the horror genre, known for The Drifting Classroom and Makoto-chan, passed away on October 28th due to stomach cancer. This announcement hit our newses on the 6th of November. Very unfortunate. You hate to see us losing, big creators and pioneers in the industry. It's important to talk about, especially when they have such huge impact. Drifting Classrooms, if you have not read or seen anything inspired or based on Drifting Classroom, you just don't know you have. Next up, we have the video game The Casebook of Arnie is getting a TV anime. It's going to have its original scriptwriter and illustrator doing series composition and character designer work for it. It's a mystery vampire game created on the RPG Maker program, surprise. And it was made free to play on a Japanese website in November 2017, and it was released on Steam in October of 2020, so it's able to be played. It's getting an anime. Good for it. We have the web manga Hotel Inhumans getting an adaptation in 2025. We do not know exactly when. Its director is Tetsuro Amino, has worked on Shiki, Macross 7, and Iwakaru Sports Climbing Girls. This is coming out of Studio Bridge, which has been known for Fairy Tail 2014, the final series for Fairy Tail, Talentless Nana. It also appears to be ongoing in source material. Another thing to potentially check out. Next up, Eurocamp Season 4 announced for Joyce Austin. You're gonna have a great time. I will eventually go back to give Eurocamp the fairest shake I possibly can. It deserves it after the podcast season. in which I did not really give it a fair shake. There is no word on which studio will be tackling it. C Station did the first 2 seasons of the spin-off series and the movie, but 8-Bit did the third season. We do not know yet, as of me compiling the news. It was not confirmed which one is tackling it. I would assume it's 8-Bit, since I would just guess they're going to continue based off who did the third season into the fourth one. But we don't know. We'll see. I believe there's been also some additional voice actors confirmed for this. Oblivion Battery is getting its second season. This is going to be continued by Studio Mappa. I have not checked this out. It's a Mappa work, so you would expect it to be really good, but I believe this came out in a season when Mappa was doing some other stuff. So I don't really have too much to weigh in on it yet until I get a chance to check it out. It's a sports show, so I eventually will. It's baseball, if you did not know. This is a fun one. Hypnosis Mike. The anime is getting the series, multimedia project, which has had 2 anime seasons before, is getting a anime movie in February of 2025, and this has been described as the first interactive movie in Japan. So it's going to open in theaters on the 21st of February in 2025, and it's going to allow the audience to decide the outcome of the rap battles unfolding on the screen through a voting system conducted within the theater. Each audience member casts their vote in real time during the screening via a smartphone app, and the story progresses based on the choice with the most votes. The results in the storyline and ending shift with each screening. According to the audience's decision. This is coming out of Polygon Pictures. You can imagine it's probably going to be CG. Hypnosis Mike is like a rap idol group. Lots of fun, Michael, and I had checking out the first season of this. Polygon Pictures, known for Ajin and Knights of Sidonia, which is why I tell you it's probably going to be CG, but it's a studio well known for their CG and generally considered some of the best in the business with it. Not talking about Orange, but also really good. I don't generally talk too much about. I have not generally picked up too much of these style of stories. This next one, because usually this is just us getting additional information about something that has been announced. And if I did that, we would have the longest list of news in all eternity, and we already do. But this is a special occasion because we got additional information that is unique and new. So Sakamoto Days announced additional stuff we're not going to go into, gave us a new promo, which gave us a piece of information in addition to that we're going to talk about, and is revealed to be Split Core. So this is a manga actively running in Shonen Jump, if you did not know, incredibly popular. Its first part is going to debut on January 11th, 2025, and the second will premiere in the summer. Its opening is going to be done by the singer-songwriter Vondi, known for Reiki of Kings and Chainsaw Man. The song's original for the show. You could hear it in the promo. It's very good, as you would expect. We'll talk a little bit about this when we talk about what replaced this. Yokai Buster Murakami ended in Shonen Jump. It ended with chapter 21. We are actively going to talk about the thing that replaced it in news, and then actively talk about the thing that replaced it when I talk about what I've been reading, because I did check it out. Michael read the first chapter, I believe, of Yokai Buster Murakami and was not necessarily hooked by it, and I was not particularly interested to go check it out. 21 chapters is pretty early, which almost to me indicates this was an axe, in that, the author was given the heads up and told you gotta wrap it up. From how I heard, it seems like this was wrapped up in a generally okay manner, and did not feel too bad. But this this is gonna happen. This is also our last axe, I believe, of the year. We're not gonna see anything else get cut from the magazine until, I want to say, January, February is the next set, because I believe they do 4 waves of these. Which means stuff that's out now is going to get like 3 or 4 more chapters before they potentially have the chance of getting canceled, which is going to be really good for those things that are still going in Shonen Jump. Next up, the author of We Never Learn, Taishi Sushiri, the author of We Never Learn, Bokuben, has a new manga that launched on the 18th in Shonen Jump. This is what replaced Yokai Buster Murakami. It's called Sivcraft Love is a Mystery. It's also on Manga Plus. Again, I'm going to talk more about this actively when we go into it, when we go into what I've been reading. You and I are polar opposites. The manga is ending on November 25th. This manga started as a one-shot and then got picked up for a full run. It's going to end with chapter 65. we're gonna talk more about this in the what I've been reading section, as I'm actively talking about you and I are polar opposites. But we're gonna really go into depth into this with the next episode of this, where I actually get to talk about the end of it. Obviously, this is ending in 4 days now, the time that I'm doing the stream. But we'll have to wait for the next 2 week period, and it will probably be one of the things I talk in depth with because it's a manga that came to a full conclusion. But again, we'll go a little bit more into this when we get to what I've been reading. Here's a story. Voice actor David Wald is leaving his role as Gagio in Fairy Tail. So he's not returning to Crunchyroll following claims that the company opened his mail, gave away its contents at giveaway tables, and on October 25th, he made the claim that the Crunchyroll opened his private mail, threw away letters, passed on any of the included items to staff, and he apologized to fans who may have sent him anything in the last 5 years that he did not get. So Crunchyroll made a statement about this, that they're looking into it, and that they also, want to make it very clear they respect their voice actor privacies, and that people should not be mailing packages to Crunchyroll. If you are trying to send fan mail, you should be sending it directly to talent or to their management or wherever they have it set up, which should not be Crunchyroll. This is a wild situation, and we're going to get into some of the things additionally that go into this. One, Crunchyroll's huge, and it's potentially only going to get bigger. So saying that you are walking away from Crunchyroll, as a whole, not just Fairy Tail, but he's leaving his role at Fairy Tail because it's actively streaming on Crunchyroll and is tied to Crunchyroll, right? The voice actor. So this is tricky because is he at a point in his career where he doesn't really need the roles to come in from Crunchyroll? Is he at the point where he doesn't even really need these roles, that he is free to do this, or is it just such a violation of his privacy for him that he just wants no part of it? It's a very interesting situation. I'm really interested to see if Crunchyroll makes any official statement about an investigation about this to figure out what exactly happened. This is a shame. I think he kills it as Gagio. Crazy. Here comes our rapid fire news from Anime News Network. Are you ready for this? Momo Sumomo's Princess Margarita of the Ruined Country is entering its climax. The manga started in June 2018 and will be ending soon. And again, rapid fire. Taking Care of a God artist Jun Yokoyama is launching a new manga in November. The series is called No Murder, No Life, and it started on the 18th. Honda's the author, From Sick Planet with Love is ending in January. This started in 2020, January of that year. This is the author who did Skullface bookseller Honda-san. High Dive is adding the Ninja Scroll anime film to its library. Saint Seiya: The Next Dimension manga is getting a sequel. It'll be titled Saint Seiya Then Haikyo no Hana, Flowers of Ruin. In the magazine's next issue, which is on the 14th, the special manga was set to have 8 pages, full color. Even if you don't do it, that's the name of the manga, is set to end in December. This is from Haru Haruno. It's going to publish its next chapter on December 3rd exactly. Misaki Sako's Kenshiro no Suma Desuga, which its final chapter, it is ending as well. I don't have a date for that one. The UK anime magazine Neo ends on the UK anime magazine Neo ended on its 20th birthday. At the time that the news came out, Neo was the last British commercial print magazine specializing in anime and manga. That means the only continuing English-language commercial print magazines focusing on the anime and manga are the bi-monthly Otaku USA, its sister publication, the quarterly Anime USA, and the twice-yearly academic journal Macadamia. Second arc. All 3 of those are published in America. That's unfortunate. This sort of thing happens, especially when you are covering what is generally considered a niche news area in, Western news culture. You see a lot of consolidation and removing and, just closing of those styles of news magazines. Video game magazines have been going through this for a while, too. It really sucks because you want more. You want good competition. You want different sources who can get different answers and get different stories. And the more you have, the better. It just a lot of these, hyper focused in on hobby like magazines. Terrible way to refer to them. But that is how like probably broader, bigger companies who might own them or fund them view them, or how the general news industry views them. They just don't have the funding needed to keep going, or they just get closed down by their parent company because they don't think they're making money, and they might not be. That's the unfortunate truth of the matter. Gantz' creator, Hiroa Oku, is they're working on a new manga. We know nothing about it. It is still in the early stages. Probably it's in their brain and they want to get it out. That means nothing to us. But know that if you're a Gantz fan, something new is coming for you. Manga author Shuzo Oshimi will launch a new youth manga titled The Sound of Blinking on December 13th. Kotaro Lives Alone's Mami Sumura is working on a new one-shot manga series. Another interesting news blip we have here. Voltron, Legendary Defender animated series, is leaving Netflix on December 6th. The official Instagram account for the Voltron franchise responded to a comment stating that discussions are ongoing and they will let you know. They will let you know when they know what's going on exactly, if they're able to change that outcome. Kingdom Hearts fans, you should know the KH3 manga is reaching its climax. What does that mean? We'll never know unless you are actively following it, but a climax for it is coming. Totally Bound Hanako-kun's anime second season it reveals a January 12th debut. Shigemitsu Harada's Shirimitsu Harada and Haichi Sendo's Hikaru to Hikaru comedy manga is ending. This is from the creator of the spinoff for Cells at Work Code Black. Hiromi Morishita and Sohei Sheihonin's Ashiba manga. Hiromi Morishita's Shiohei's Seishonen Ashiba manga is ending. If you know what this is, you know what this is. If you don't, you don't. So the manga is a sequel to Morishita's original Shonen Ashiba, and the original manga ran in Shueisha's Weekly Young Jump magazine from 1988 to 1994, and it had a sequel series that is ending. A very big deal if you are someone who has paid attention to that. Miko Senri's The Most Overprotective Demon King in the World manga is ending. Kenichi Namari's Disciples author Shun Matsuena is launching a new manga. It is titled Kichi Joji Shonen, which just translates to Kichi Joji Boy. It's gonna come out in the magazine's next issue, in that magazine's next issue on December 12th. Again, if you're any interested in where this stuff is coming out on in terms of magazine platforms, check out the Anime News Network November archive. I have the link in the description. You can get all the precise details that I don't include on this rapid fire news roundup there. In addition to that, Matsuena is also debuting a new series in Shogakukan's Weekly Shonen Weekend Shonen Sunday magazine. No additional information yet. Cinnamon Roll's designer Miyuki Okumura is leaving Sanrio to work as a freelance artist as she plans to continue studying drawing and writing. So just freelance is where they are going with that, and they are stepping away from Sanrio. And finally, for the week of November 6th to the 12th, Graphics is set to release, that's Graphics with an X, set to release Yoshinio's Koyoka's Mecha Ure Mechanical Arms manga, coming out in print in April in English, I believe, is what this news blurb was. So we are actively watching Mecha Ure for the podcast for Saber Slay. Really cool to know that its manga is going to get an English print in April. Something that I might check out, because the anime's art style is very interesting. I'm curious to see what the manga's art style looks like as well. So, with that out of the way, we are set to head into the week of November 13th to the 19th this past week. So again, back to the Mal news of blurbs. This is often news shows getting series. There are going to be a couple of additional ones spliced in here from Anime News Network that were really big stories that I want to talk more in depth on, and one story that is both incredibly funny and heartbreaking and you'll know that when we get there. So let's dive in. Week of November 13th to 19th. The manga, The Catcher in the Ballpark, is getting a TV anime in 2025. Another baseball one. This is going to come out of the director Junichi Kitamura, who worked on Fluffy Paradise. Studio working on it is EMT Squared, which is Stranded in the World, Fluffy Paradise, Kuma Kuma Bear. Could be good. Could be good. Baseball, never know. Could be good. Sakuna of Rice and Ruin animal sequel announced. We do not know yet if PA Works will continue on as the studio. I imagine they would, but it's a second season and sometimes that changes, so you do not know. The web manga, The Moon on a Rainy Night, is getting a TV anime. Its source material appears to be ongoing. It's a Yuri manga. Let's go. We in it. The light novel, Backstabbed in a Backwater Dungeon. My trusted companions tried to kill me, but thanks to the gift of an unlimited gacha, I got a level 9,999 friends, and I am out for revenge on my former party members and the world. Shimasu. It's getting an anime. I didn't jot down any additional information about this. I don't remember if there was. I couldn't tell you if I just got so focused on getting the English version of this title in. Light novel, baby, can truly never stop. Welcome to Demon School. Rumakun's fourth season has been announced. No confirmation yet if Bandai Namco Pictures is returning as a studio. We're 4 seasons deep. I imagine they probably will. This was what I was talking about earlier when I said Bandai Namco Pictures is they are a studio you can trust. I was talking about this for Brain needs to think. Rock is a Lady's Modesty. That was the new one being picked up by Bandai Namco Studios. So yeah, they work on a Rumakun. They've done really good work with a Rumakun. So which why I'm expecting really good things out of that show when it comes out. 4 seasons for Welcome to Demon School Rumakun. Something I need to check out of a show that it's doing well enough to have this much adaptation. People really like it. Same with Hanako-kun. Those are both things I should probably check out in my free time when I get the chance. Next up, the manga, An Archdemon's Dilemma, incorrect. The manga, Deacon no Mogura, it has no English translation. That is hard confirmed, which is why I didn't have that, is getting a TV anime in summer 2025. The director for this is going to be Hiroshi Ishiodori, who worked on An Archdemon's Dilemma, How to Love Your Elf Bride. And the studio is coming out, Brain Space, who a big fan of Brain Space. Me, your guy, To Your Eternity, Natsume's Book of Friends, Bakuno, great studio. Source material appears to be ongoing. This author has done something before that got animated in the early 2000s, early 2010s. I don't remember off the top of my head, but this seems to be a decently, I don't want to say high-profile manga, but one that at least has an author who has a history of having their manga get adapted before. Next up, White Fox is producing Busaman Gachi Fighter for a TV anime adaptation. They are White Fox's studio behind ReZero, as well as Devil is a Part-Timer. Source material for this it's completed already, so who knows what this breakdown will look like when it gets adapted, but there's a chance you're going to get this. You're going to have like maybe a season off if this source material is long enough, and then you'll get another season, and you'll just have the whole show animated in like not having to wait 8 years for it. It's always nice to know that. The light novel, There's No Freaking Way I'll Be Your Lover Unless ... is getting a TV anime in summer 2025. This is coming out of the director Natsumi Uchinuma. This is their first time as a main director on anything, and this is coming from the Studio Mother, which has done More Than a Married Couple, but not Lovers, Arifureta from Commonplace to the World's Strongest, as a reincarnated aristocrat, I'll use my appraisal skill to rise in the world. So they are known for picking up their light novel, for adapting light novels, and the source of material appears to be ongoing for this as well. Stories like this happen, and good for it. The novel Anne of the Green Gables is getting a new TV anime in spring of 2025. This is an adaptation of Lucy Maud Montgomery's Anne of the Green Gables, a novel that has been adapted already a couple of times as an anime, a very popular, traditional style novel that made its way to Japan, that was picked up by the culture, really loved, and, made into the media they actively make anime. So it is being produced by by the Answer Studio, which worked on The Garden of Words, Tower of God Season 2, and Golgo 13. It's slated for April 2025. Yes, I know I just said this is coming out of the studio for Tower of God Season 2. I'm not worried about it. Garden of Words and Golgo 13 are both incredible pieces of works. Just because you have a studio that doesn't always hit it out of the park with everything they do does not mean you can expect it to be bad. I imagine adapting Anne of the Green Gables again is going to be something they're going to do with a lot of care, and it's going to be a really great project to look out for in April 2025. The anime is going to be titled Anne Shirley, just as a reference. It's not actually directly called Anne of the Green Gables. Next up, Star Wars Visions Volume 3 is announced for 2025. We are going back to anime studios working on it. It's going to premiere worldwide on Disney Plus next year. And we have confirmation on the animation studios participating for the third volume. They're going to include David Production, Kamikaze Doga, along with Anima, Cinema Citrus, Polygon Pictures, Production IG, Project Studio Q, who is a new studio working on this. They do not have a portfolio actively on MAL. Trigger, and WIT, some powerhouse studios. If you don't know everything here, David Production, JoJo, Undead Unluck, I believe, Fire Force, Kamikaze Doga and Anima worked on stuff like Sandland, Cinema Citrus, Made in Abyss, Polygon Pictures we've talked about already with Jin and Knights of Sidonia, Production IG. If it's a sports anime you love, Production IG probably did it. Trigger, come on now, Kill la Kill, Eddie Trigger show known to man, you know them. And Wit Studio, boy, you don't need me to tell you anything about Wit Studio. Wit's my goats. Next up, we're gonna talk about this a little bit more, but this is gonna be, this part of it in particular. We'll look at the news blurb about Oshi no co-writer Akasaka is set to launch a new manga series next spring. It's an original story for a new manga series that will come in the magazine he's already been publishing in. Again, in spring. It features the Record of Ragnarok artist Aji Chika as the person drawing the series, and Ao Kujira from Geek Circus Crisis is going to be composing the series story. The manga teases a fairy tale story with a prince and princess guided by fate. Man, this sounds really cool, and I'm sure people are treating it properly as a cool new announcement to a new story, and we won't have anything in particular we have to talk about soon in relation to it. Definitely not a reason we have a big topic here we're going to be discussing later. So, let us continue on. The voice actress Momo Asakura is launching for the first time a manga. Don't Make Me Like Itsuki-kun. So Asakura is might recognize her for her roles as Nagisa Kashiwaga in Kaguya-sama Love is War. She's an idol master, a bunch of other stuff. She's also performed the theme songs for a couple of animes like Heroines Won the Show, Girlfriend, and a Kebi Sailor uniform. Some of those have been on the podcast before. This is gonna be the illustrator for this. Is gonna be Ayami Miyako, and Ria Uehara, who ran a Girlfriend and Vampire Dormitory scriptwriter, will be the scriptwriter for it. It is a new age. It's a new age gap romance manga. Let me make sure you heard that clear. It's not a new age gap romance manga. It's a new age gap romance manga. It's gonna center on a woman known as Nagisa Hinata, who is around 30 years old, and after despairing after her job isn't going well, and she finds out that her boyfriend is cheating on her. She then meets a high school boy. Man, I sure hope, and that's I hope this manga does well. I hope the people who enjoy it. I sure hope this manga faces a lot of the same criticism that you would get from anything that is remotely like an age gap romance with a older male character and a younger female character. Is all I will say. I hope we as a community can hold it to similar standards. Especially the fact that this is being pitched particularly as a romance, whereas there's a couple of other ones that are certainly romance, but not necessarily coming from both characters the exact same equal level. This sounds like it might be a little dangerous. But who knows? An interesting project all around. Next up, Viz Media has released one in Kyoto Shitara's Bug Ego manga. So one is the man behind One Punch Man. It has been released in English digitally. There are 4 chapters out right now. The next chapter is set to come out on December 18th, according to Manga Plus. It's on Manga Plus. It's on Shonen Jump. I'm gonna talk more about it just a little bit when we get to what I've been reading, because I did check out the first 2 chapters of this. Next up, the Assassination Classroom manga has been banned in the South Carolina school district. Normally I would not include this person's name, but you know what? It's vocal. It's readily available news. It's almost certainly been broadcast on TV networks in South Carolina. Jennifer Hannigan, a mother, issued a complaint and described the manga's content, saying the manga has numerous pages depicting handguns, rifles, knives, and potions, and that the story talks about killing in the pages. You don't say. She added that there's girls in lingerie hopping on top of men in the book, and she also noted that the manga's characters discuss ways on how to kill their alien teacher in the story. All very justifiable reasons to ban a manga out of a school district, surely. Assassination Classroom, what did you think it was about? But also, I get it, the kid picked it up, so you probably didn't know until you looked at it. Let your kids read what they read. And learn reading comprehension to understand that there is nothing in this manga that your kid is learning that is worth being banned. This is following a string of additional manga bans across the country. Here in the US, Saki to Miyano being another well-known banned manga popping up. That for reasons much more clear and concrete as a targeted reason for it being banned, which is gay. Can't have that. Not saying that this also isn't a dangerous thing to have happen. A manga like Assassination Classroom getting banned. Book banning is nothing new, especially in southern states in the U.S., but it also happens in the north as well, across the entire country. Unfortunate. Let kids read what they want to read, man. Young Gangan the Young Gangan magazine is set to launch 4 new manga, including a My Dress Up Darling spin-off. I'm not going to go into more information about the My Dress Up Darling spin-off, besides that it's a My Dress Up Darling spin-off, because that's about all they tell us. The other 3, one is coming from Ume Matsutake and the artist Komikan Matsumoto. They are set to launch Did Tamagawa-san Come Out manga. It is an erotic comedy manga that centers around a convenience store manager named Tamagawa-san, who is doing a job interview with a girl who greatly resembles the famous sexy actress Yuri Miyama. The actress retired at the height of her popularity, and Tamagawa really wants to ask and confirm if the girl is indeed Yuri Miyama. Or you might have an understanding of what all of these manga are going to look semi-like based on this. Next up, Haru Hisakawa will launch the Treasure Sisters manga. It is a heartwarming money comedy manga that centers on the poor young sisters Nina and Mana, who have received 300 million yen as a birthday gift from their father. This one actually sounds entirely wholesome and has it will have nothing in it, but given what it's surrounded by, I am not sure. Especially this last one of the 4. Suniya Kaga is set to launch the Watashi no Koto Natoto Miseta manga. It is an NTR romantic comedy manga. If you are interested, go on to Anime News Network and find this new blurb about these 4 new manga launching in the Young Gangan magazine, and you can follow it to your heart's content. And now it's time for our big story before our rapid fire news segment. Very excited to talk about this. So from Rutgers, Sony is in talks to acquire Kadokawa. According to records, there are 2 sources familiar with the matter. There always are, because that is the bare minimum you need to write something like this. And that the talks are ongoing, and a deal could be signed in the coming weeks. So Sony already has a 2% stake in Kadokawa and a stake in its subsidiary From Software. Now, this is where you're going to hear people talk about this story, because it is much bigger for gaming fans to talk about Sony as a gaming entity and how this is a move to own From Software. We're going to talk about all the things that Sony owns, or things that are a subsidiary of Sony or a part of Sony, so you understand why this is not just them going for From Software. This is them going for a much bigger media entity in the industry, and it would be for all of our benefit if it did not happen. So let's keep going. Aniplex, if you did not know, is a subsidiary of Sony Music Entertainment Japan. The animation studios A1 Pictures and Cloverworks are subsidiaries of Aniplex. So keep this in mind. Sony technically already has A1 Pictures and Cloverworks, or at least some sway over the works they do. Sony's Funimation Global Group completed its acquisition of Crunchyroll from AT&T on August 9th in 2021, and Funimation's home video releases are now under Crunchyroll. I'm sure we are all well aware of that. If you didn't know, Crunchyroll reached over 15 million paid subscribers to the anime streaming service as of this year. So, keep that in mind again. Sony has its hands here. Kadokawa, if you didn't know, recently acquired the anime studio Dogakobo in July. Kadokawa's anime studios now include Dogakobo, Engi, Studio Kadan, and Raging Bull, and the newly formed Bell Knox Films. They are also affiliated with the companies Cinema Citrus, which we've heard a lot about today, and Studio Chizu. Kadokawa's publishing companies, because they're not just an anime company, do not forget this. They are a much bigger company. So they have publishing companies that include Kadokawa Key Process, which handles the imprints of a bunch of stuff. They also have Kadokawa Game Linkage, which publishes a couple of things, including Dengeki Nintendo, a largely Nintendo-focused gaming magazine, and Weekly Famatsu. Just keep in mind that this all comes together as one. They have J-Novel Club and Yen Press. Its game subsidiaries include Acquire, From Software, and Gacha Gacha Games, and Spike Chunsoft. Kadokawa has released a statement as of yesterday confirming that it received an initial letter of intent for the acquisition of its shares, but no decision has been made at the time about it. This would be insane if this was a full-scale acquisition of Kadokawa by Sony. Absolutely huge, dangerous, and scary, because it is not just corporate consolidation in the gaming industry, which is already a big deal and a big problem. It's a corporate consolidation in the anime industry, in the publishing industry. It's so much. This is the stuff we are legitimately scared of. I shared this story with Michael, and his response was, so they're shooting to be Disney. Sony is. And I said, probably. Everybody wants to be Disney and Google, man. That's their goal. Disney, Google, Amazon, Sony, Microsoft. So many big companies that just want to be the biggest. This is an interesting topic, because on one hand, there are probably people who feel that the Funimation library being under Crunchyroll's library now is actually helpful to them as a consumer. It's more convenient. They don't have to have another subscription. And I will be the first person to admit that when we are picking shows for a season and something is on High Dive, I cringe a little, because I don't want to go buy a High Dive subscription to watch stuff. And I'm always worried that Netflix isn't going to air things properly on season, because they have notoriously done that sometimes. So, hearing that something is coming out to Crunchyroll is a relief a lot of the time for me, but that doesn't mean that I like Crunchyroll being the king of streaming platforms. And if the company that owns Crunchyroll starts to own large-scale studios in both gaming and anime, you have a very dangerous, basically, battlefield of stuff coming out, where if stuff goes wrong, who is stopping it? And it's not just going to go wrong in one place, it's going to go wrong in multiple places. It is what's very scary about all these things getting eaten. And a lot of if you own so many different things, you start to see companies close down and jobs start to get, reorganized or completely cut and lost, because they have to save money for stuff when they make bad decisions elsewhere as a huge, massive corporation company. Very scary. Very, very scary, very something to very much keep your eyes on as the next 2 weeks unfold. I'm sure we will have new news in 2 weeks' time for the next episode of this podcast. Next up, our rapid fire news blurb from the rest of the stuff from Anime News Network. Let's go in. Yagata Tanabe's Shikigami of Detective Manga is ending with its third volume. Who Killed Sho Ukadera, the manga, is ending. Synduality's Ellie spin-off manga ends with its second volume. G Kids is acquiring the North American rights to Naoko Yamada's A Silent Voice and Liz and the Bluebird anime films. The company will screen the former movies in theaters from December 15th to 16th. Crunchyroll and Tubi TV are streaming the films. G Kids previously licensed Yamada's Garden of Remembrance original anime short film and Yamada and Science Saru's The Colors Within feature film. This is probably a good thing. I don't really know why this wouldn't be. This is kind of a separate thing. This company is getting rights to re-air films for us in the West. Seems good. Crunchyroll is adding Ashita no Joe, the anime, into its library. It is under the name Tomorrow's Joe. So if you are looking for this and cannot find it by searching Ashita no Joe, it's under Tomorrow's Joe. The streams for the first season are already up. All the episodes are out for season 1. Season 2 will begin on December 3rd. Ubel Blatt's anime's second trailer reveals a January 10th debut and is streaming only to Prime Video worldwide. Fun for me for next season. Fan of the Saber Slay podcast might recognize this one. Whisper Me a Love Song finally has its episodes 11 and 12 set to air on December 28th. This anime premiered in April, if you did not know. Its episodes 9 and 10 aired in late June after a delay due to production issues, and we were finally getting episodes 11 and 12 again on December 28th. Wild. And definitely not something similar happening to something else that was also picked for our podcast this season, but we'll get there in a little bit. The One Piece manga is taking a 2-week break due to Oda's health. It is returning on December 2nd, so very soon for us. Kadokawa. Crazy, we just talked about them. Lists Death March to a Parallel World Rhapsody TV anime with a sequel. It is in production. The first season of the show aired in 2018 and was on the first original recordings of the Saber Slay podcast as well. Very funny. Blue Box and Maki Lumiere mangas are getting full color vertical scrolling versions on the recently created Jump Tune. This is starting in December. I don't know a lot about this necessarily, but that's really cool, I think. Utakata's Milk Chocolate manga ends on December 18th. Yue Maeda's Cells at Work Muscle spin-off manga ends in its 5th volume. Potora Fuyahara's In Another World My Smartphone novel is ending. Hayakura Anime has postponed its 8th episode indefinitely. The 8th episode and on would have been delayed because the staff has decided that it needs more time to maintain the series' quality. Return dates are not yet decided. Like I said, happening again. Astro Boy and Howl's Moving Castle's lyricist Shuntaro Tanigawa has died at the age of 92 of old age. Grandpa and Grandma Turn Young Again's author Kagiri Arito launches a new manga on December 17th. It is titled Dungeon Band. The manga centers on the girls' band Mayonnaise, who gets 0 live audience when they perform. The band asks the god for anyone to watch their performance, and then someone appears in front of them. This sounds silly and interesting, and I might have to find a way to go check that out. Merman in my Tubs, Itokichi, that's the author, launches a new manga. It is titled I Became the Ogre's Home Tutor and will come out on December 6th. The Vampires Next Door, the manga title. The author Ryoko Batake is launching a new manga on November 22nd. It is titled Delusional Land Escape. And High Dive has confirmed the Insomniac After School anime's English dub cast. The dub, I believe, has begun its premiering already. And that closes out our news segment and allows us to head into and talk about what I've been watching anime-wise. So let's pretty quick little plug here. I'm watching stuff for our podcast, Save or Slay, which is on this channel. If you did not know, is meant to be a weekly podcast. Scheduling issues made us plan for a double elimination this week. So we're going to be talking about episodes 4 and 5 of our shows, and then voting 2 shows off. This season we started with 11 shows. We've already voted Hayakuri off. Spoiler for episode 1. uh, meaning we don't have to worry about its delays in the long term, which has worked out. We did this before that news came. It just so happened that that's how it went down. So our remaining shows are Dawn to Dawn, Sumusho, Blue Box, Mecha Ude, Let This Grieving Soul Retire, The Do-Over Damsel, How I Attended an Old Guy's Mixer, Orb on the Movements of Earth, Yakuza Fiance, and Negative Positive Angler. 2 of those shows will be going this week. When we do our episode, it will most likely be this weekend. My guess would be a Sunday night. If anything, perhaps Tuesday night. I have a hard time seeing us doing any other day, as John has moved to a morning work schedule and cannot be up too late. But I would imagine Sunday as the earliest, latest start date, as in it is the earliest day I could see us starting. No earlier probably than Sunday. I don't see us doing tomorrow. I don't see us doing Saturday with things I know about how this is looking. I'm not going to give any impact on my thoughts on these shows yet. Tune into the podcast to hear about that. Maybe in other weeks I will talk more about them, but by that time, we'll be farther down on the amount of shows we have. And I might want to hold a lot of my opinions close to my chest, as I might not have too many more to share. I am watching 3 other things right now that are not shows for our season. I am caught up to episode 7 of The Healer Who Was Banished from His Party, is in fact the strongest. I like that show. I was not expecting it to take such a hard turn into the romance stuff for it in episode 7. Some of it feels very much just blurted out in the spur of the moment for the episode. And I'm acutely aware of what it's setting up story-wise. Does not hide its parallel to the active story and the little puppet show it has, but I'm very curious to see what's going on. If you did not know, this show has already resolved the fact that the healer was banished from his party. That's been resolved. We're now going to talk about the fact that he is in fact the strongest, and in what ways that impacts this fantasy guild adventuring world. It's interesting. I give this show that, compared to what I was expecting from other banished from party shows. This one I'm probably the most interested I have been, and I think it is. I think it's not anything amazing or spectacular. It's probably going to be a solid 6 or 7 out of 10 show. I would say if you're into this kind of genre, it is worth checking out. Next up, I am watching Spirit Chronicles Season 2. I'm caught up to episode 7 of this. If you have not checked out Spirit Chronicles, it is a fine isekai show. Reincarnation, isekai, it's both. The main character is both is reincarnated into the world, and then other characters are isekai'd into it. It's doing really interesting things in season 2 with a focus on those other characters who are isekai'd, and how a character who has been reincarnated and has memories of his past life in Japan is dealing with meeting those people again. I think the most recent episodes are setting up for some really interesting character dynamics, and a lot of characters from early on in season 1 have returned in season 2. It is probably worth it for you to go back and rewatch season 1 if you already did and haven't started checking out season 2, just to refamiliarize yourself with the cast. Because boy, did I not immediately remember some of these characters. And while they do throw you a couple of flashbacks here and there, they don't expect you to remember everything. Or they expect you to remember some things without the flashbacks, I feel like. Next up, in absolutely incredible timing, the music I have in the background has started playing Shangri-La Frontiers opening theme, and I am watching Shangri-La Frontier Season 2. The crazy sync-up that you don't get to hear because of how this way. That's absolutely mind-blowing. This just happened. I'm caught up to episode 5 of the season, which in total is episode 30, as they're just continuing straight from the last season. This show's really good. It's odd. If you were watching Shangri-La Frontier and you have not picked this back up, that seems silly to me, because Shangri-La Frontier's first season just kind of, its true core first season just kind of ends. Like, it just ends. It doesn't have, like, a clear end point for the season. It's very much just like, okay, we gotta end the season. Season 2 is just gonna pick right back up where you left off, and that is what it does. I don't think it's doing anything super crazy right now. Again, I haven't seen the newest episode, but I really like that it seems... The show takes a lot of great care to set up plot points and items that are being collected and actions being taken to build to the bigger moments later on in the season. And that is what we're doing. We're doing like a build-up phase right now with the episodes, is what I feel like. So we're not super hard diving into the new content in the game that has hit for season 2, nor are we diving really hard into hunting down these bosses quite yet. But I really like what we got. Its ED this season is phenomenal. Its opening's also pretty good. I don't have too much to say about Banished from the Hero Parties or Spirit Chronicles openings and ADs. They're fine. They're nothing that stand out largely to me. Now we get to another large section of this podcast. Let's talk about stuff in Weekly Shonen Jump. So everything I'm going to talk about here comes out, and you can read it on the Weekly Shonen Jump app. One Piece. We had a chapter in the set of 2 weeks, and then it went on break, as we talked about. We are spoilers for One Piece. I'll put the finger down when I'm done talking about One Piece. We're in Elbath. Really cool. Really excited about this. A different Luffy might have let Loki free. He's grown, so I don't necessarily think that was a thing he was going to do. And Loki also said the wrong things about Shanks. Really don't think Luffy's about to let him out necessarily, unless things take a different turn. I'm really excited with the setup of how we're in Elbath and the use of the new Giant Pirates crew. I'm really enjoying that. One Piece is done. You can come back now. Black Clover. I'm going to talk about Black Clover, so you could, if you don't want to hear about the new 3 Black Clover chapters, this is happening. So when these fingers go down, you're good. This set of Black Clover chapters focuses on the fight, oh my god, against Morgan. We have Noct, we have Yami, we have Yami's sister, whose name I don't remember off the top of my head. I really like how she is written for these chapters. I really like the power up for Noct. I'm really hoping I have that right and I'm not fucking that up. I have to go check now to make sure I'm not being incredibly silly. I think I'm right. I don't think I've screwed that up. Yami's really cool in this chapter. His newest power up is probably the most contrived power up in the series so far. It's not that it just comes out of nowhere. It is set up and talked about, but I don't think it's talked about to as big of a focus as you would like for something like this. But I also don't know how you would write this any other way to get Yami back into the fight after the thrashing he took. This fight feels like it should probably be longer than 3 chapters. But I'm not dissatisfied with it. I think it's a really cool fight visually. It is maybe one of the more complex fights, drawing wise, in the manga in a while. I do not blame Yuki Tabata for wanting to write fights and have them end in the block of chapters he is sending out. It felt like this was a fight deserving a little bit longer time, but I'm not an author. I don't know what you would fill it with. I don't know how you would prolong this fight. Besides letting people do a little bit more cool stuff and giving a little more back and forth. But perhaps that's just filling. Filling some time that you don't need to fill for chapters and dragging on the story that you are actively trying to finish in its final arc. I imagine the only fight that will really take a long time will be the last fight with Austin, against I can't think of his name right. Lucius? Yeah, I believe so. That's Black Clover done. Beat in Motion's really good. You should go read Beat in Motion, the newest chapter. Man, we have just hitting all the emotional beats, no pun intended, absolutely needed right now. A very real chapter about how communication should work. This manga has me worried it's going to hurt me more with where this romance is set up and what we haven't done with it recently. But very good chapter. Very Dragon, very good, very cute, a wonderful another wonderful story that has some great moments between characters talking to each other. Fantastic. Kill Blue is in a school festival arc. I like this arc a lot. I'm very interested to see what they're going to be doing in the next couple of chapters. That these are probably my least favorite unicorns right now, but hey, that's how the cookie crumbles. Uh, yeah, it's neat. It's neat. It's Kill Blue. It's an okay arc. Hakataku. I really like the setup we're going for with this arc. I'm really interested in these AR games that they're setting up. Um, this is the manga I am most worried about in Shonen Jump for when the new year comes around, about whether or not this will last. Um, it probably won't go right away, but it might be a manga that's gearing up to maybe get cut. I have seen that this is probably the thing people are least excited for overall on the internet about it, and that there are a lot of people who think it's not doing enough on the technical side of talking about the programming. But I also think you would really, really lose and isolate your audience if you were trying for that. This is the tricky thing where, like, sometimes you are too geared towards a general topic or idea that you just don't have the general Shonen Jump audience anymore. And Hakataku, and that's how it is, unfortunately. I feel like I like it a lot. I really like the arc we're coming into. I think it's going to make this manga really strong. It's just then how it's going to get out of the arc and what it's going to do after that I'm interested in. For what it's worth, this is a manga where I'm not sure how long it's shooting to try to be, so it's tricky to say. Shinobi Undercover. Very, very cool chapter this week. Incredibly great cut. Panel, one panel to next panel shot. I really want more time with these characters, and we're like very action paced right now, which is probably good for it. But I would love to slow down a little bit after we get out of this altercation and just get more time to flesh out our cast, because I really enjoy the interactions with them. But here we are. We're in a decently big fight that I imagine will be another chapter or two probably. Hibaten's great. If you are a rom-com fan, you should be reading Hibaten. I have nothing else to say about it. We are moving the girls along. All of them actively chasing down our boy. Hibaten's so good. Hibaten's so good. Sometimes you should not read Hibaten in public. It happens. Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi is probably the manga I am most proud of where it has gone. I started reading this, I think when it started up its run, and I was meh on it. I thought it was fine. The more I read it, the more I feel like it captures kind of like the humor kind of tone, the bouncing between seriousness and goofing around that like Soul Eater had when I watched it when I was younger. And there are maybe some direct stylistic comparisons I can make between the two. But man, I'm really enjoying this story and these characters and some of the moments we're getting. This feels probably strongly like maybe the most Shonen Jump manga I'm reading in Shonen Jump. And I'm worried about it only because it has actively pushed a very large threat into the story so early. Now, it is possible this threat's going to get away and we're going to build up to stuff afterwards, but it makes me. It almost feels like we're giving up to get ready to close this story early, and I do not want that because I really enjoy it. Aichi the Witch. Super funny, super good. These characters are really great. The art's really cool, really clever fights so far. Don't want to get. I don't have too much to say yet because it's still early in its run. Kagurabachi has thrown the plot in a direction I was not expecting it to go, but I'm down for. What an interesting idea for its story and plot that I'm super excited to see dived into. An issue that the manga has clearly set up. It isn't out of left field. It's just not what you were expecting in the moment, I think. These upcoming fights and interactions are going to be really cool, and I'm very scared. Things can happen in Kagurabachi that you should, if you are not reading it, you should be reading it. It's so good. It has maybe one of my favorite power systems in terms of what these swords do visually. Man. I'm gonna talk Chainsaw Man first. Technically came out after these things, but I'm gonna talk Chainsaw Man. I actively know what's going on in the newest Chainsaw Man chapter. That's crazy. I haven't felt like that in a long time. I'm super excited. I think we're really about to pull some big punches with Fujimoto. Catch up on Chainsaw Man if you're not caught up. You might have felt that it was kind of meh in its second half, in the second, after you finish what is essentially the part 1 and you head into part 2 of Chainsaw Man, you might have been like, meh, and I'm not fully sold on it, but I'm really enjoying what we're doing right now, and Denji is back to being a strong, well-written protag that I really enjoy. I'm not gonna talk about Shiba Inu and Dogs Red because they technically came out on the 20th. So uh, even though they did have like a chapter before, just barely, and it has this chapter, I'm gonna push them for 2 weeks from now. But I'm just gonna talk about them in bulk when we get close to that. I feel like that will just be better because if I'm trying to talk about Shiba Inu and Dogs Red, I'm just gonna think about the newest chapters I've read. So I'm not gonna talk about them. They're both great, in different ways. Let's talk about Sid Craft Love is a Mystery. Newly started manga coming out of the Bokuben author. Um, this is fine. First chapter, I want to say it was like 70 something pages. It might be only be 50 because Bug Ego was like 70. That's probably what I'm thinking of. But first chapter, longer length compared to what its other chapters will probably look like, which probably means that its chapters are going to be multi-part. So if you're not invested in the mystery you're being given, you might have to hold through a couple of chapters. It's probably something you'll want to let build. None of its mysteries is particularly compelling as a mystery. This is most likely meant to more be a rom-com, or at least a romance-focused manga that is using mystery as the form for it. Like the mystery is going to be the vessel for which the romance comes through. I really like this main character. Sid himself is, I think, very funny. I enjoy him on screen, and they do a good job capturing the detective character. Again, though, the mystery itself in chapter 1 is very easy to pick up on, very easy to figure out exactly what has happened. There's a couple of things I don't think you're going to get, but the story explains it for you, and they're not very intuitive to add to the mystery, I feel. And both of the things they hint at the end of the chapter, I sure immediately thought both of those things were already the case from just looking at the poster for Sidcraft. And then the additional detail about one of those characters I grabbed almost immediately. So suspense and mystery is not right now Sidcraft Love is a Mystery's biggest asset, which is perhaps a little worrying. But we're one chapter in, give it some time, we'll see what we think. An okay landing, we'll see how much I feel about it. I think the story will have legs no matter what, because it's coming from the Bokuben author, but who knows, I might find myself surprised. I've read 2 of the 4 chapters for Bug Ego. This story is insane. Wild. I do not know what to tell you besides this is not going to be anything like One Punch Man, if that is what you think you might be getting. Dude, I can't even give you I can't even really talk about it. The concept, but let's back up a little bit because these are new. Sid Craft Love is a Mystery. It's about a detective who's really good at being a detective, but hates everything that comes with being a detective. He hates being the confident, suave, mysterious, super focused guy. He hates always having to unravel mysteries that wind up, usually tearing him apart from ever finding romance. It's a that part's a neat concept. It's really cool. And then you have Bug Ego. You have 2 characters, one of which shows the other. There are these things in this world called hacks, that let you do numerous different things that a life hack might do. And let's just say they're very real. And the consequences of them, or of sharing them, and what they may do is worth exploring in the story. It's worth checking out. I can't express enough. The art in this manga is insane. Let's try to blitz through my Manga Plus stuff because this is long. It's more than Weekly Shonen Jump. So I'll try to give as much of a brief view of things as I can. Marriage Toxin is in maybe its strongest arc recently. Very good. If you are someone who has read Marriage Toxin, you're like, I just don't like how often our main male lead the story is very much just him resolving problems for the female cast. I felt that the story had done a good job of also letting them usually join in and also fight back and have good moments of autonomy. This newest arc is Gira is there simply to remind the characters that he is there for them. Everything is getting resolved by the female cast in the moment for this. And it is going back to some of the older characters, not introducing new ones, which I think is incredibly smart. A really great marriage toxin arc to hop into right now. Hope you're happy, Lemon. I'm really, really interested in what this manga is going to be doing with the rest of this filming arc. We're like getting so close to having really important conversations between this cast. Bonus chapter, newest chapter is a bonus chapter with art, so it's gotta wait. Days of the Diamond, 2 really incredible chapters for this baseball manga that are drastically changing what this main character's motives are. It gives me hope that this manga is going to keep running. I really enjoy this. I can't express how much I think the theme of Days of the Diamond about a kid who doesn't want to keep playing baseball because he's so good that it is lessening the experience for the other kids and causing problems that he just doesn't want to play. And now that has finally flipped. He has found the motivation to play and to really play in every game. And I'm excited to see where that takes him. Insect Girl, extra chapter art. They gave us some detail and background characters, and we're in the middle of a really important fight. With some really important moments I don't know how the main cast is going to get out of. I'm interested to see what's going on with that. Strikeout Pitch. It's fine. Baseball manga, unique little twist. It's not selling me yet. I'm likely to probably, this is one of the 2 manga off Manga Plus I'm likely to drop soon if it just doesn't do anything to really hook me. We won't talk about Oshinoko yet. The God Before Me, Shogi manga. Chef's kiss on this most recent chapter. Fantastic character moment between the main character and his teacher. Oh, you go this chapter. Even if you're not reading The God Before Me, this chapter is just worth reading. It's a really good chapter. You could read this standalone and get the exact message it's trying to tell you. Great. I love it. Kindergarten Wars. Bonus chapter. Can't talk about the newest chapter for this, but there's a bonus chapter. And then before that, which counts into this 2-week period, we got some really incredible fight scenes that are setting our main character up for a very game-changing situation. I obviously know what the newest chapter is like, and it does not immediately jump back into where we were 2 weeks ago, which is unfortunate. We'll talk more about it, though, next time. Hero Organization coming off of a week break, so we're just back. It's really... biggest props to this manga right now is showing off how our main character's skills and motivations are impacting those around him. Very excited for this manga. It has set itself up really well, worth checking out. We'll talk more about You and I Are Polar Opposites probably next, in 2 weeks when it ends, but it's in a very good spot. It makes sense that it's ending. I was excited that maybe it could have continued into a college arc. It's not doing that. I think that's fine. No Gyaru in this class is a fine little, kind of like gag, almost feels like a 4-koma manga, but it's not. It's okay. These characters are goofy and silly. It's a good time. I'm not super sold on keeping this around for too long, probably myself, just because it's not exactly something I'm super big on. Lunatic Terror Pop. I can't talk about its newest chapter, so I won't say too much right now because it really built up for the conclusion of it. We'll talk more about this in 2 weeks. I'm enjoying the direction it's taking, though, I think. Centuria. Big setup for the opposing antagonistic force, followed by a time skip that has people scared the manga might be on verge of getting canceled. It's almost certainly not. It's a time skip because the story needs a time skip, and I'm very excited to see where it takes us. Some new characters, some old characters growing. If you're not reading Centuria, from someone who worked on it, an assistant who worked on Chainsaw Man is actively doing this now as a story. Very good, dark, great, super pulling. Recently ended a huge arc that would be worth catching up to and then keeping up with. Mikane and the Sea Woman, extra chapter, nothing to really say yet. Feels like this manga is getting close to its end. Smother Me, the other story I'm thinking about maybe dropping soon, depending on what it does. I can't talk about its newest chapter, unfortunately. But some backstory about 2 characters who I'm not even particularly interested in, and taking the dynamic of a character we met at the very beginning of the manga in a different direction that I don't know how I care about either. So just overall, it might be losing my interest despite how interesting the art style is for it. Yotara, crazy shit happened in this newest chapter. I don't even know where to take this. I'm very excited to see what it does. It's still early, hard to say too much about it. Monochrome Days, also still early, but the two newest chapters are great in relation to the direction it is taking these two in their dreams to keep creating manga and getting to meet someone who's established in the industry and learning from them. Seems like this is not going to be a particularly slow-paced manga. Very interested to watch these two characters and their dynamic develop. Nightlight Hounds, bonus chapter this week. Don't have a lot to say about it. It gave us a character connection web that was neat. I didn't particularly felt like I needed it. I really like the setting and the character design of this. The actual story itself, I'm not sold on yet, but it's early, so we'll see. Magokuro Scramble, What Lies in Your Heart, also really early into this. We got a reveal at the end of the chapter that I can talk about for it. That was interesting, that I was not expecting. I'm not the biggest fan of the Shinobi character. We'll see where it goes. Sudoku Returns the Favor. I gave a little bit of, edge, a little bit of, dislike to the idea of a new age gap romance manga. Sudoku Returns the Favor is a teacher and a student, but it is largely, almost entirely one-sided for the student having a crush on the teacher. And we are actively in a chapter that is exploring the teacher standing up to a parent to allow this student to express herself. I'm really interested to see the resolution to this. Really interested to see how much longer this manga goes after this, too. It's hard to say. And then brand new manga, The Urban Legend Files. Really funny horror, don't want to say creepypasta, folklore, myth, monster cryptid-like story that was funny and I enjoyed. Interested to see what it's gonna keep doing afterwards. We are just an hour in, and we are at our final 3 big talking points. So let's get into it, and then we will close out this week's bi-weekly Anime and Manga podcast. Bleach. Let's talk about Bleach. What am I talking about? Bleach. I'm not talking about Thousand Year Blood Worthy anime, but part of the reason I did dive into Bleach was that I wanted to engage with that animation to see what it was doing. My understanding is that it's doing a lot of things, adding some moments and things that were maybe always intended to be in the manga but did not get there because Kubo had to rush to end it. I read all of Bleach. That's over 600 chapters plus the Hell arc one shot. Bleach is great. I really like Bleach. I would give it I want to say I gave it somewhere in a 9 range. Bleach's biggest drawbacks. It does a bad job with its female cast, I think, largely. Rukia is maybe the only prime example. So that I think she's good. Rukia is good. Rukia gets to do fights, she gets to win the fights, she gets to have core moments that are really great for her character. I like Orihime's moments with Ichigo. I just wish she got to actually do more. And this is a curse that comes with being a support healer character in a shonen battle manga. I kind of put it on a line here. If you were to compare Bleach's central female characters to Naruto's central female characters, I think Hinata's probably the worst out of all of them, in that she has only a couple of really shining moments in the story, but largely gets put to a backseat to her romantic feelings for Naruto. Talking about Naruto and Shippuden not going into Boruto. I would then say Orihime, because she has some equally large moments that are impactful, but she's relegated to that healer, the romance, the support role that doesn't really get to give her those big battle shonen manga moments. And then I would give you Sakura, because Sakura, much to people's dislike, has some really crucial moments throughout all of Naruto. She gets to have her own moments where she gets to fight, she gets to be an independent character who does get to get wins and victories, or at least gets to do them with other female characters in strong moments that move the story forward. Does she have some bad moments that set things back? Absolutely. That is the reason she is here in her placement. But she does not necessarily feel fully like she is bound to the romance element tied to her character. And then you get Rukia, who gets to win numerous fights on her own, has some great character growth, some really cool abilities that gets to shine on her own, and her romance and the romance side of it is largely not focused on until the Hell arc, where it's kind of just, well, the final chapter in the Hell arc, where it's kind of just sprung on you that, this dynamic that makes sense has developed for her and Renji. Um, General thoughts. Soul Society arc, I think is really pre-Soul Society arc. I actually really like. I like a lot of stuff in the human world. I think that's the part of the manga that is also kind of a drawback for me, is that a lot of Ichigo's friends in Japan and Karakura Town don't get to shine as much as I think they could, and a lot of the moments they build up for them, we either don't get because someone else does it off screen with them, or it just never comes back around in the manga, which is upsetting. I am particularly talking about at the end of the Arrancar arc, Ichigo, when he gets ready to go to Hueco Mundo, him and Urahara say, you will get, Ichigo will tell you what is going on, talk to you, and, he will explain why he is doing this and what is going on, and that's important. And it's a moment he should get to have, and then he's out cold at the end of the arc, heading into Fullbringer. The time, a good amount of time passes, and everyone just gets told all the events by everybody else around him. He doesn't actually get to talk to his friends and explain why he did what he did, and that's unfortunate. It's a really lost opportunity. And then you almost get it again when Kiyuraku shows up in the human world and goes, here's a pass for you to come visit Ichigo because he might be too strong to ever come back. And then we don't do anything with that ever. It's frustrating. Those are kind of like the two large things that I feel like prevent Bleach from being an incredible top of the line 10 out of 10 shonen manga. But the arc before Soul Society, I really like. I think it shows Ichigo's character really well. I really like the Soul Society arc. I think it's super strong. It really builds into this bigger threat and problem with Aizen in the Arrancar arc. I wish Ichigo's friends got more time to fight at the level of everybody else, especially heading into Hueco Mundo. I don't feel like they get that, and then especially after their one big fight they never get to do anything again in that arc, essentially. The fights the captains get are really well executed throughout the entire manga, and it really shows that Kubo is able to take a large cast and use a large amount of them efficiently to the same level that I commend Tabata and Black Clover. Fullbringer is an interesting arc. It is not my favorite, but it has some of my favorite moments in it, and I give it a lot of props for what it does. Thousand Year Blood War is an incredible final arc. Assuming the Hell arc doesn't actually ever happen, Thousand Year Blood War is a great closer. I'm not the biggest fan of Yawak as a villain, from an actual execution of the final fight. I think it's a little anticlimactic. It feels less like a fight for Ichigo and more like a fight for a different character who I won't say anything about for now, as to not potentially spoil people who are getting ready to see the end of it in the anime. But it just doesn't feel like Ichigo really gets his moment that I feel like he should get for it being the final boss of the manga, essentially. But the Quincy's and their abilities are all really cool. You get some of the best fights in the entire manga. I do have some gripes with the last fight that Kenpachi, Byakuya, and Hitsugaya get to do, in that they don't get a resolution. I hate how many fights at the end of the Thousand Year Blood War arc just end in no contest, essentially, and that the threat gets dealt with by plot, not by any of the characters, when they realistically should probably get the W. Give them the W. They're strong. They deserve it. Compare that to two of the fights you get with two female characters, where they essentially get to win those fights. One of them is more reliant on a male character, which undermines it a tiny bit for me, but it makes sense given her backstory. And the other one is probably one of the best moments that could happen tied to Mayuri in the entire series, which I can't believe they're getting those words out of my mouth for a character who I largely disliked earlier. I don't really have a lot to say about the Yoroichi fight. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Especially, it winds up really being an Urahara fight, which is fine. He needed one eventually. It feels odd to have brought certain Arrancars back. Spoiler, not touch Tear at all, even though you acknowledge her existence again. Just felt like you took a character who didn't get time to shine in the original arc, and then also not give her time in the and a second chance in a brand new arc. Wild. There's also characters who show up who just they don't do anywhere near the amount that it feels like they should for the setup you get for them reappearing. But hey, whatever. Talking mainly about the Fullbringer cast, who whole thing there. But those are my thoughts on Bleach, largely overall. Very enjoyable to me. Elusive Samurai. Elusive Samurai is good. I like Elusive Samurai. I picked it up after its performance on the podcast, but only got to it recently. I have a couple of gripes with it that really prevent it from being even like anywhere close to Bleach on a shonen manga style. One, its historical grounding can sometimes take away from core moments. For reference sake, I am actively chapter 130. I'm on chapter 135 of the manga. I'm not caught up yet. It's a slow build into its time skip, which I think then, from then on, it feels like things are really going. This is a strong stride. It's like 100-some chapters in, though, which is a tough sell. But you need those 100 chapters and the things that happen to really get the core critical moments for Tokiyuki and the cast around him. The dynamic between Tokiyuki and Yoshishigure, and Ryojin Suwa, it's really good. I really like what we wind up getting with that. That is perhaps one of the an incredibly well-written character dynamic that I love the direction it takes. I'm not sold on female cast yet, especially since at the point I'm at, we're really hitting the romance level in it. It's not a bad thing to have female characters get paired or show romantic interest. The problem is when you largely show it one-sided and you don't really do much with the male characters in that regard. Bleach is good in that regard because some of the characters you do see a romantic interest from the male side of things. Elusive has given some pretty concrete wins to one of its female characters. The other one I feel like hasn't gotten a lot of time. She gets a concrete win in a unique way that I do like. It's very show-offy. It's very prideful. I like it a lot. But yeah, some of the most recent fights I've just gotten to have been incredible. It's just that I wish the manga wouldn't give me the historical context that this will be this character's last fight. That this will be the moment a character dies. I don't want to know that. I would rather experience it first, and then you tell me it in the aftermath. It still reflects the historical accuracy that you're trying to get across, but you won't spoil it for me. You won't take away a moment that might really impact me more if it was a genuine, I didn't know this was happening. By far the biggest threat with Elusive Samurai in that regard. And some of the comedy stuff is still not necessarily hitting with me. But that's just a personal preference. I don't personally find a lot of poop gags to be amusing at the age I am at. May not be the target demographic for Shonen Jump in that regard, but hey. Let's finish up here. Oshi no Ko. The internet, at least on Reddit and Twitter, now known as X. I love when news articles refer to it as X, formerly known as Twitter. It's very funny. I know you have to from a journalistic standpoint, but also I'm talking about articles published by sites that journalistic integrity is I found 4 people tweeting about something that's good enough source material to make a story about how it's true. For what it's worth, there is a decent amount, very easy to find, Oshi no Ko fanbase who are upset at the end of Oshi no Ko, and that's what we're going to talk about, is the ending of Oshi no Ko. So spoilers, do not listen to this if you have not finished or caught up to Oshi no Ko. This will be the one thing I'll say quick before I say I'm going to really get into spoilers. Oshi no Ko is a tragedy. It has romance in it, it is a scathing critique of the entertainment industry, and it is a tragedy, largely. If you expected everything to go well for every character, you did not understand the structure of this tragedy. And it was very clear, in my opinion, that Aka set up that things were not going to end happily and well for every character dynamic or pair here. Spoiler time. You might argue that at least one of the romantic pairings should have walked out happy. Unfortunately, most of the romantic pairings were centered around Aqua, and it should have been very clear to you, heading into the final movie arc, that Aqua was not going to have a good or happy ending, and nor were any characters directly tied to him. So lots of your romance pairings were going to wind up in shambles. The whole kind of collective theme at the end of Oshi no Ko is moving past tragedy and events that have happened to you to continue to live, because that is what most people who are really close to you, who you lose, would want you to do. And that is what those characters are attempting to do at the end of Oshi no Ko. Kana, Akane, even Ruby are all attempting to press forward, having lost someone so crucial to them. It's also a matter of putting into question, was it worth the revenge story to have done this? You accomplished what you wanted, you brought attention to the issue, you got rid of the person who was going to threaten your family, but was it worth you sacrificing what you did? I think it's a very thought-provoking question. I've also seen people critique the panel of Ruby on stage as a successful idol as walking back and being a failure for the series on critiquing the entertainment industry. At no point in the manga was it ever implied that being an idol is something you should not want to do if you love it. All the scathing critique is that there is corruption, there is horrible, dark things, bad things, abuse that happens to people in the entertainment industry, that it is a dog-eat-dog world that takes advantage of young children often, takes advantage of, fans' feelings and manipulates it for money and greed and wealth. But it also very much starts to show towards the end that a lot of these issues compound on each other. They happen because they happen once, and then they happen again, and they keep passing on to people, right? So Ruby does not change the outlook of the critique of the idol system. She just continues to play into it. And she was never a character who was out there fighting it. She was always a character caught in the entertainment industry and wrapped up in it and was going to be taken advantage of. The question is, will she rise above and not get taken advantage of by the industry, but instead use the industry for her benefit? We don't know. The story doesn't go far enough for you to know that. She appears to be successful, but what does that mean for an idol after 10 years? You don't know. You don't. I think it is fine that the character who has actively loved idols the entire time and inspired to have a dream actually reaches and achieves it at the end, when your other character does not get the happy ending. It's fine. Your scathing critique of the entertainment industry exists and is still relevant. Do I think we rushed into this final arc? I don't think so. Because we had set up Aqua as having resolved an issue, and we're building Ruby to be a more dangerous and scary individual. But we pulled it back so that Aqua could retake that role for the final arc. By him saying, oh, I realize what's going on now. You need to step back and not get involved in this. It's not good for you. This was always meant to be the thing I was sacrificing myself for, not you. And I just think you hit a point where when that happened, when Aqua made the realization that his revenge was not done, and that Ruby was starting to go dark, that you were on the path to the final arc of the manga. You can't change that. And then you have the movie production. And the movie production, once you go through that, you cannot avoid the confrontation with the final villain. And I think most of the confrontation and the reveals for it were largely the pathway to it were paved early in the story. It's hard to say it wasn't, given the fact that the movie itself is hinted at very early, if not even the very beginning of the story. I don't think Akka rushed this. I don't feel that personally. If he did, then that's his own thing to focus on. But if he did rush it, he did a tremendous job rushing it to what I think is a very satisfying and good ending. Perhaps you are too captivated by the romance side of it. And if you wanted this to be a romance where you got an ending you enjoyed for certain pairings, you were doomed from the start. It just wasn't going to happen. I don't even think the ending was squandered or bad. I can't come to that same conclusion as people. It just doesn't exist in my mind that is the case for Oshi no Ko. I've thought about it, and there are maybe one or two characters I wish would have had a little more development and a little more time to do some other things, predominantly the other members of B Komachi. But I think what we wind up getting is fine. I think it works really well for their characters, and that most of the characters don't get fleshed out were there to show off different aspects of the story. They were not necessarily characters meant to be fleshed up, but characters used to establish things. That's just the way it is sometimes. I think it was well done, well executed. I think if you are boycotting Aka's next work because of the ending of this and because you also didn't like Kaguya's ending, so you're silly. Just don't read it. Don't make it a big deal. He didn't do something terrible. He didn't ruin manga for the entire industry. Why do you have to spruce up a boycott for it? Also, you know nothing about the new series when this started. It's ridiculous. You should hope that the author winds up going on to produce something that other people will like and is good, even if you are not on board to sit through another ending for it. If you were disappointed by 2 manga endings from one author, just stop reading that author. You don't have to go on a boycott. You don't have to go on a rampage. You don't have to try to tear a person down and even go out of your way to attack an artist who had nothing, the artist of the manga, who had nothing to probably do with the story at all. It's it's actually really funny in that regard that a fan base had such a negative response to a manga that also in some ways critiqued fan base. Um, Nowhere near as in depth as it increases as it critiques the actual industry. Uh, I think largely with Oshi no Kodan, you can either wait for the anime to adapt everything and watch it through. It will be a very enjoyable time, or you can go read it. And I think if you read it, especially now it's done, you will find a manga that is well thought out, a good critique, a tragedy, and well executed by the time you get to the end. I have a hard time pinpointing things that I don't think make sense. There are things that are explained away in the manga by supernatural occurrences. It should be apparent that was going to happen from the beginning given how the two main characters exist. Uh, but I was satisfied with Oshi no Ko, and I think I gave it like a 9.5 on the immediate end of it. It might dip down towards like a 9 or 8.5, just because uh, I don't know, there's just something sitting there that doesn't. There is something there that I'm like, I would have wanted a little more from Oshi no Ko in some way, but I can't tell you what. But that's more just a me personal opinion. The actual structure and result of the manga is exactly what I would have wanted. Um, Perhaps it's just a tragedy that leaves you unfulfilled sometimes. Um, I think I'll hard probably put at like a 9. A 9 for this and a 9 for Bleach, probably, is where I would adjust them both for. Elusive is sitting at like a 7.5, closing in on an 8, maybe. But I'm not done, I'm not caught up, it's not done. But that wraps up this bi-weekly anime and manga podcast. Still almost half the length of most of our Save Our Silly podcast episodes. We're actively planning that right now on when we will go live. So keep up to date. Keep an eye out for the next live notification when we go up. And I will probably see you next Thursday. Not next Thursday, but 2 Thursdays from now on the 5th. When I dive into the next set of news roundup and big topics, whatever I decide they may be. So thank you for joining me for this. I had a good time doing it. I'm very excited to perhaps actually make this a thing I do in the spare time. Your thoughts and interests, anything you want to discuss in the comments of the the VOD for this live stream, go right ahead. I'll try to keep my eye on some things so if I can update and keep up and discuss things, I gladly will. I'll also gladly go in more depth about Bleach or Oshi no Ko if anyone's interested, or discuss stuff in Elusive Samurai or any of the things I'm reading. Obviously, this is also kind of a way for me to have an outlook for stuff I'm reading that is not the very limited amount of time we give ourselves to talk about what we've been doing on the Save or Slay podcast, while also not forcing myself to sit down and do individual videos that I just don't have time, my free time to produce about topics like Bleach and Oshi no Ko and even Black Clover. But maybe we'll have a name, a real name, a clever name for this podcast by 2 weeks' time, or it will just continue to be a bi-weekly anime and manga podcast. I've been Sean with the Anime and Manga channel, and I thank you guys for your time. Have a good night.